Welcome back, Axis and Allies players, straight from the nest. It's Wars of the World, Series 3, the Napoleonic Wars. NATO's going to lead us through this introduction and through all of our scenarios. Take it away, NATO, and show us how it's done.
Hello everybody, this is Nato at the Nest with the first half of the 1806 turn for the Napoleonic Wars. One thing I realized I forgot to do was mention the victory objectives for Austria and Sweden. They're pretty simple for them. Austria's is to hold Austria, its capital, and Sweden is to hold East Poland, have control of East Poland and Austria respectively by the end of the war. Now, the reason for Sweden is I wanted to give them something other than hold their capital, because realistically France probably won't get that far north, so I had to give them something that for France to go to that's a little closer to their borders. And historically, Sweden controlled a section on the main continent called Pomerania. Now, the closest historical, real-world location for that is the West Poland / Stettin area. It's in those territories. Obviously, it's not reflected on this map because by World War II, Pomerania as a district, county, whatever you want to call it, didn't really exist anymore. But historically, it's roughly around the West Poland area, and Sweden controlled that territory. So I gave Sweden the objective of holding that territory. Can't really see it because it's buried under Russian troops, but Western Poland's right there. And Austria is just to hold the capital, which, depending on how well France does, that could be a challenge in itself. And they're part of the British, Third Coalition, and I'll more likely be referring to them as the Allies in these videos, because some history textbooks do refer to the British and their respective allies as just the Allies for short. And Napoleon and Spain or France and Spain is just the Napoleonic powers or alliances, but for short we'll just call them Napoleon's forces. Especially when France annexes Spain, France is going to be France is going to be all by itself. So, other than that was all the announcements. So, England, we'll get into the turn. England, just continuing to buy ships. Bought 3 ships, put them in Season 11. And let's see what else. Oh, they bought another tech roll for their infantry squares, and they got a 2 or a 3, so not terrible roll, but not good either. So they're sitting at 53 points. Austria, the Allies are for the most part on the defensive right now. I think Sweden was the only one that made any attack this turn. So Austria just reinforced northern Italy, brought down 2 infantry from Austria, and reinforced their garrison at northern Italy. Spain bought cavalry and 3 more frigates, and then attacked the British squadron in Season 11 and the Swedish frigate in don't remember what that sea zone's called. Danish Straits. We'll go with that. And both were successful. I believe the Spanish assault on the Swedish frigate, I believe it was a 1-for-1. They destroyed the Swedish frigate for a loss of their own. The battle with the British squadron went much better. Sunk all 3 frigates for only one loss of their own. And that was Spain's turn. Russia, they didn't attack either, just reinforced its front line. Bought more Cossacks, slowly moving them up to the front to get them into the fight, and slowly bringing down reinforcements from Leningrad. Granted, it wasn't called Leningrad yet, because this map is post-Bolshevik Revolution. So historically, in 1806, that territory / city right there is actually called St. Petersburg. But as it's printed on the map, it's Leningrad. So, and then see, Prussia not in the war yet, so it didn't do anything. Sweden, it took its frigate in its home waters, came out of the Baltic, and attacked that Spanish fleet right there, and it was a total disaster. The Swedish frigate was sunk and didn't sink a single Spanish ship. So Spanish naval dominance continues. They bought another frigate to replace the one they lost. France made 2 attacks in northern Italy and then the Russian forces in the Sudetenland. And the Austria bringing down 2 infantry to reinforce their northern Italian forces proved prudent, because those 2 infantry that Austria brought down arrived just in time to be killed. France got 2 hits and only suffered 1 in return, I believe. But France has reduced the Austrian forces in northern Italy to 2. So France is on the verge of clearing out that territory, getting another factory and another chance to roll for Imperial Guard. And the attack on the Russian forces in Sudetenland went well again as well. I think they got 2 hits on the Russians for none of their own. So both attacks tactical victories for France. And then they continued on their technology research and rolled really poorly. They rolled a whopping 1. So they are at 14. They need 14 more points and they'll get French cannon. Their cannon will gain first strike capability. Portugal bought another infantry and still waiting to get in the war. And that was it for the turn. So that was it for the first half in 1806. Next turn is the second half in 1806, and a new player to the war. Prussia enters the next turn. So we look, be looking forward to that and seeing what Prussia can do to ease the pressure off of Austria and Russia, because the last couple turns they haven't been doing so well. The Allies in general haven't been doing well. The British are getting pounded in the sea, and Austrian and Russian forces aren't doing so well on land. So hopefully Prussia can turn things around by adding their weight to the mix, but we'll see what happens. So thanks for watching. We'll see you next turn. Hello everybody, this is Nato at the Nest with the second half of the 1806 turn of the Napoleonic Wars. Let me double check that year, make sure I got it right. Yeah, 1806. Right, so, Prussia has entered the war this turn, and so the consideration for them is, it's a fresh army to go up against France, and it's desperately needed, as Austria and Russia aren't doing so good to the south. So they're going to use Prussia to, because Prussia goes before France, so Prussia has the opportunity to get first strike in. So, excuse me. So Prussia, we're going to use Prussia to hit France in the north, in western Germany, and with the goal of drawing French troops away from Austria and the Russian forces in the Sudetenland to the south. Strategy for Sweden hasn't changed. It's just going to continue to build frigates to help out the British, and the British are just going to continue pumping out frigates of their own to keep Spanish numbers even. The Spanish fleet hasn't really grown any, because combat losses due to the British have kept it kind of at maintenance levels, and that will hopefully pay off down the road. So England, I think I just mentioned, its turn, it bought 3 frigates and continued its research into infantry squares and placed them in the English Channel. Austria it reinforced its troops in northern Italy, and that was it. No offensive action on their part. Spain attacked the British fleet in the English Channel and destroyed it, but they took two losses, I believe. Yeah, they lost 2 frigates in the attack. Russia didn't attack this turn either. It reinforced the forces in the Sudetenland and then moved into Stettin to guard Prussia's northern flank. And Prussia, newcomers to the war, they attacked the French in western Germany, and it was roughly even losses on both sides. I believe Prussia lost more, but not by much. It was 1 or 2 more than the French did, and that was Prussia's only attack. Sweden attacked 2 Spanish frigates in the Danish Straits, managed to sink 1 for the loss of 1 Swedish frigate, and that was Sweden's only action. France, big news with France is they drove Austria out of northern Italy, and so secured the production and another factory. So France now has a major and 2 light factories, and they're also able to get another Imperial Guard out of it. So France now has 2 Imperial Guard units, and more importantly, Austria and the Austrian capital are now threatened. There is nothing between them and the French forces coming up from Italy. So next turn, assuming something crazy happens, next turn we could see France laying siege to Austria's capital and potentially taking them out of the war, which would be an obvious boost and bonus to France and its ally Spain. And the France attacked the Sudetenland, the Russian forces in Sudetenland, and that one actually went poorly for France. Not by much. They were able to inflict one Russian casualty, but at the expense of two of their own. So that was tactical defeat for France. And then France counterattacked the Prussians in Western Germany, mostly to reduce Prussian numbers in the event that that Russian army keeps moving west to reinforce the Prussians. Wasn't necessarily meant to drive the Prussians out, it was just to reduce their numbers so that when Russian forces get there, they don't outnumber the French forces and hopefully reduce Prussia enough that when the Russian reinforcements get there, they're incapable of offensive action and keep them on the defensive. But the Prussian strategy did work because it forced France to divert its reinforcements north to fight the Prussians instead of east to fight the Austrians and southern Russian army. So the Prussian strategy did work. Portugal just continued buying more troops. And let's see. That was it for the turn. America still can't buy anything and hasn't moved anything because everything's where it needs to be. England hasn't been able to spend any money in Canada because every cent England has gone into the fleet and tech upgrade or research and technology. Speaking of that, France did continue its research into cannon, and it rolled a 2, so not spectacular, but not the worst, because remember last time they rolled a 1, so a little bit of an improvement, but not by much. And that's the end of the turn and end of the year. Next turn will be the new year, 1807. So big events was France pushing Austria out of Italy and threatening Austria's capital, and Prussia entering the war. So we now have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 nations against France and Spain. So the war is escalating and drawing in more and more countries, and we'll see where the new year goes for the Allies headed by England and Napoleon. We'll see you then.
Hey, thanks for watching Axis and Allies players. Don't forget to hit a squat on that like button. If you'd like to see more videos just like this, go ahead and click on our subscribe button. You can view all of our other videos on our playlists right here on Viper and NATO, straight from the nest, coming at you from historical board games, Z-Man Games, Parker Brothers, Hasbro, and Wizards of the Coast. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you on the next round.